Hello and welcome to Queer in IFS, a podcast by two internal family systems therapists, Alessio and Jude. I'm Alessio Rizzo. I'm an IFS therapist, a clinical consultant for IFS, I'm a trainer and a blogger. And with me we have Jude. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Alessio. Hello, I'm Jude. I'm a Level 3 certified IFS therapist and approved clinical consultant and occasional trainer. And in this podcast, we explore themes and issues connected with gender, sexuality, and neurodiversity through queer and queering lenses.
Hi, Jude.
Hello, Alessio. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. So excited about today.
Yeah.
We have a new topic.
We have a lovely, joyful topic. Would you like to tell everyone what it is?
We do. But you already said half of the top of the title. It's queer joy that we're going to talk about today. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But before going into the topic, shall we introduce ourselves just in case someone is listening to this podcast or video for the first time?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
shall I begin or would you
why
like
not?
to begin?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Jude Khan. I'm a psychotherapist, a level 3 certified IFS therapist and approved clinical consultant. And I work online in the UK and further afield with neurodivergent folks, and I work a lot with other neurodivergent therapists as well. I use she, they pronouns and gender expansive. And I think that's probably all the things I need to say up top. Oh, yes. Oh, no, I forgot one. And I'm ADHD. Alessio.
Thank you, Jude. Oh, what a lovely crystal you've got there. Oh. So, yeah, it's Alessio here, he, they pronouns, and queer with a lot of neurodivergent stuff today, particularly ADHD, because I had the brilliant idea of drinking some decaf coffee before this, which of course is giving me quite a spike of energy. So I am also a level 3 certified IFS therapist, also an approved clinical consultant and an assistant trainer at the moment for the IFS Institute. I also work online with people from all over the world, really, doing psychotherapy, but also consultations, and very much invested in the development of IFS in the queer and neurodivergent field, and also in the arrival of IFS in Italy in Italian. So yeah, I think I'm sure there's more I can say about this, but maybe one thing I can say about me is that I came a lot in contact with queer joy. So yeah, I just maybe want to introduce the topic a bit.
Fantastic, yes, please.
About my encounter with it, which is relevant to some aspect of my identity to presentation that sometimes I forget to mention. And one of that is that I am a published author, and I wrote a chapter on IFS for body image issues for the LGBTQ, not AI, IA plus community, which we might need to make a podcast episode about, by the way.
I would love that, yes.
So I really went deep into the pioneering work that Pink Therapy is doing here in the UK to establish, guidelines and the modality to offer therapy to the queer community. And they've got a few criteria and kind of pillars, let's say. And one of them is queer joy. And then I was at the conference in August, and there was an entire session on queer joy. And I just, it's one of those things that really hits a spot.
Yeah.
And as I hear about it, read about it, I realize how little attention I give it somehow. And for some time, I've been playing with the idea of running a group, perhaps, on queer joy. So who knows? Maybe after this episode, I will do it. But it's in the making. So yeah. So maybe I'm curious, Jude. How does your system respond to the idea of queer joy? Because I can feel definitely something in me.
Yeah, I mean, it responds very well. In essence, I was visiting a friend at the weekend, actually, and they have a poster in their kitchen, which which says "Queer joy is an act of resistance," and I loved it so much I took a photograph of it. And I think joy as an act of resistance, it really lights a fire in me as well. And I think the idea of queer joy, the celebration in that of identities and the choice to be joyful rather than somehow apologetic or ashamed of who you are and your identity, or who anyone is in their identity, their queer identity. I think it's fantastic. It's fantastic. I think if I check in to how that feels in my body, and when we were discussing topics for the podcast the other day, and you said queer joy, it feels like just a big yes. It feels like a big internal yes.
Yeah, that's resonating with me. There is this internal yes, and there is also an element of what is it? It's like, do I experience it, and do I have it? Is there enough joy in my life? Is there enough queer joy?
Yeah.
Or can I feel any joy that isn't queer?
I mean, that's a really interesting point, isn't it? It makes me think about our conversations around self-energy and how all of our experience of self-energy is through our system, however our system is, whoever we are.
Yeah.
So, if your system is queer, is all your joy queer?
Yeah, and the moment I think about joy, I can feel it, like my body gets into a joyful position, and then I've got some managers that go, "Oh no, that's not what you should be showing." So there is an element of joy as an expression of self-energy, and some parts that have learned, hey, that's trouble. Don't really let that expression flow. Don't really show
have
up.
A sense of and do you have a sense, those parts that might block it or censor it, what's their fear?
Ooh. Well, I know it, but they don't want me to share it on the podcast.
Maybe we could think about that in a more general sense. What parts might block that joy? I'm thinking about protectors that learned the visibility wasn't safe.
Yeah, it's definitely about visibility. It's definitely, and I'm wondering, because we had this discussion about queer joy or neuroqueer joy, but also I wonder, it's because I think queer joy. I think there is two elements, let's say, of the joy. There is the internal feel of joy, and then how you externalize it.
Yeah.
So in terms of appearance, that's more like managers, they're not really bothered about feeling the joy inside, but they're bothered about how it's perceived, how am I going to appear, because appearance was harshly judged, etc., etc., etc. There is also, but when it comes to the things that make me joyful, and we were talking about a colleague of ours and how I was somehow flapping, when we discovered that we had a common interest, And I'm like, well, that's a different kind of joy. And it's a joy that's been shamed, because if I'm joyful about something and no one else is, it just all of a sudden it becomes so
Oh.
shameful to be the only one that finds a certain thing joyful.
So, and so we're talking about queer joy, we're talking about neuroqueer joy, we're talking about neurodivergent joy, we're talking about marginalized joy.
Yes.
And the example you gave earlier, when you were with a colleague and before we started recording, and you were both, outwardly expressing your joy, but in that flapping way, so in an outwardly neurodivergent way. The joyfulness of being able to do that with someone else who was also doing the same thing. So you were both joyful together in an uncensored, free way. There is something so joyful
There
about
is.
that.
And
Yeah.
there was a part of me that didn't want to look outside, because I
Right.
maybe hoping that no one noticed. So there is always that kind of,
There's always the parts kind of monitoring.
yeah,
Yeah.
hypervigilant, checking for judgmental eyes, which belong to my system, belong to my parts more than
Right.
anything.
And parts that have had the experience. And I'm again thinking about this in the broader sense of marginalized joy and queer joy, the parts that have had the experience that, you're, and I don't mean you specifically, you, Alessio, but the you in the bigger sense, your outward display of
Yeah,
joy has not been okay.
yeah. And that links to actually the book chapter that I wrote about body image,
Right.
because the moment there is so much common, maybe not as much as before, but you know, when like someone who looks like a man behaves in a way that is feminine,
Mm.
there is this immediate discomfort that is triggered around people, and even within the gay community, it's huge. As I was doing my research for the chapter, I discovered that generally community engagement is a good factor. It predicts improvement in mental health for
Yes.
the LGBT community, which is true if you're lesbian, bisexual, trans, except if you're gay. If you're gay, the community actually has a negative impact,
Wow.
probably because of how burdened the gay community is, and how they propose and recreate the same form of judgment. As a matter of fact, we're going to the masculine, feminine presenting. If someone is masculine presenting, they are on a pedestal. They have uh, all the attention, everything. And then if it's female presenting, that's usually been perceived negatively. I have been told all over my life that there was something just too much about me. They just couldn't say what was it too much.
And
But
so
yeah,
you found that experience within the gay community
oh
as
yeah,
well.
massive.
Yeah. So that tendency for that kind of really masculine male, cis
Yes.
male,
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, yeah.
that normativity within,
Yeah, it is a
normativity
normativity
of
within
that.
the
Yeah.
minority. So instead of a community as a way of liberation and of
Yeah.
celebration of any forms of gender expression, you enter into a community where your sexual preferences are accepted, but only if your gender
Conform.
expression is that of a cisgender man, which is madness for my system. I mean, I don't know, for some people might be very good, but I've always felt restricted, because if I get joyful, what tends to happen is not the cisgender male expression, actually the opposite. And my
So what we
parts are
were,
like,
yeah.
ooh, what are you
And so,
doing?
yeah. So if, as we were saying, or I think as you said, if joy is an expression of self energy, you're being joyful and expressing yourself, you're not through parts, not mediated through who should I be, but who you are, then that becomes the problem.
That becomes the problem,
Right.
because you let go, you have a joyful moment, and instead you get weird looks, exclusion, kind of people laughing. These are definitely the things that my parts hold as possible consequences. So there is a lot of checking, a lot of testing the waters and people before that can be expressed.
Absolutely. And it makes me think as well about, again, the similarities with kind of neurodivergent joy. And so the example that you had about kind of hand flapping, and that, again, that's either going to be accepted, like with your colleague where you were both doing it, and wasn't that brilliant that you could both do that, but also, those ways that we might express our joy through, physical movements, or through the ADHD, getting really fast and really excited about something, or the Ferrari brain. I just had another one that funnily enough has just slipped out of my mind. But those ways of expressing ourselves, which are nothing but joyful, but are perceived by the other as culturally incorrect or not okay. And of course, as we referenced before, as two white therapists here, we're not qualified to talk about racialized experiences. However, I am aware that, again, within different, other expressions of joy have been pathologized in so many ways in different communities as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I go back to the idea of joy as resistance.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's an affirmation of being who you are despite the world might not want you to feel that way.
And like we were talking about before we hit record, we were looking for, is there a reference for queer joy? Where does queer joy come from? And finding having it confirmed that it's not, not one person didn't coin this term. It's emerged through community. And actually, if we go all the way back to queer, the word queer was reclaimed by the queer community after being a slur against the queer community. It was taken and celebrated as an act of resistance from the get-go.
Yes. Yeah.
Feel the joy, the joy in my system as I'm saying this. It feels like, it feels fiery and exciting and positive.
Even just to name it, there is something that vibrates. I guess it's self-energy, because when I just naming calm, compassion, it does ignite a little bit of that. So that joy is there, and I keep on thinking, okay, is joy different from queer joy? Can we make a distinction? Or is just joy is just simply an expression of self-energy, just someone who expresses a sense of, I think it's not just pleasure. It's such a it's so difficult to express joy, to describe it in words.
Yeah, and I don't know. Is there a difference between joy and queer joy? I don't know, but thinking about this as self-energy, this does feel like it's it's one of those aspects of self-energy that perhaps isn't quite captured in those C's, and the calm, confident, compassionate, courageous, and the others, which I'm not going to list.
Yeah,
but it's something about this is more of a kind of more of an energetic something, which perhaps does it. And maybe this is back to your, is there a difference between joy and queer joy? Perhaps this is something that's quite unique to the marginalized experience, and then the embracing of that.
Yes. And I wonder if we can ever feel joy on our own, or if queer joy requires a queer community to be shared. I don't know.
That's a really interesting question. Well, when I suppose a time when I feel queer joy on my own, but it's always in relation to someone else, is when someone uses my pronouns.
Oh, yes.
Or because, I mean, it's not been long that I changed my name. And so when I hear someone I haven't seen for a while using my name or using my pronouns, I have that moment of like, that's me. Yes. And that feels joyful. Because what I'm thinking about is this, what are the tiniest moments of this? And then what are the biggest ones?
Yeah.
And down for that individual to then, I don't know, like pride parades
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. Thank you for the word tiny, because sometimes it could be someone entering into a pub with a trans flag, or like with a trans t-shirt, or just with a little flag.
Yeah.
It could be those small moments that you
Absolutely.
go, wow, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Or some sort of excitement about like a queer icon, like someone like a famous performer. And maybe that's the like sometimes I get quite invested into RuPaul's Drag Race and who's winning what. And then I go, oh, I was so invested. I mean, they don't know me. I mean, if one wins or the other, it makes zero difference in my life. But then I go, oh, maybe that's what people feel with football when they have that
Right.
association to a team that I could never understand.
Yeah.
But yeah, very interesting.
So there's a sort of joy of being recognized. There's a joy of resonance. There's a joy of safety, right? So you walk into a room and someone's got like a little trans pin or something on. There's a relief and joy in that. Like, oh, and then there's the kind of the collective joy, and then there's the that joy, like watching RuPaul's Drag Race, that joy of just being in a it's just abundantly queer, and that's just being celebrated and just in your face in such an amazing way.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not trying to make loads of different definitions of joy there. I'm just kind of picking the themes through what we're talking about.
But but as you talk, I'm thinking about other aspects of queer identities that, and I think a part of the joy is exactly because it's marginalized. Like, think of a polyamorous couple, and the joy they might feel by going, the three of them, to a St. Valentine dinner. If that was the norm, maybe it wouldn't be as joyful.
Yeah.
Something about the joyous resistance that despite the norms and all the constraints, when you get to express that, it's particularly meaningful and joyful.
So queer joy is like unmasked joy.
I believe so.
Maybe. I mean, I'm bringing in kind of, that's a more neurodivergent word. I don't know, but it's the, well, we're here, we're queer, get used to it. It's that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's that kind of thing.
It's that I'm taking up space, but not taking up space in an aggressive way or in a confrontational way. It's just, here I am at dinner with my partners.
Yeah, exactly.
Being visible.
Yeah, yeah. And the same
choosing to enjoy Valentine's night with my partners because I want to go out and have dinner with my partners.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess the same applies to, pink identities, and the joy in being able to just show that aspect of yourself and celebrate it. Yeah.
And choice feels really important here. That kind of ninth sea of self energy choice, the choice to express yourself,
Yes.
and then the resonance with other people as well through that. But I'm chewing over. There's this need community, this queer joy require community, and I'm sort of toing and froing in my head between absolutely, and it's also about those individual or small acts. Acts isn't the right word. Individual or small choices to exist freely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe that I think we can only feel joy if something resonates with aspects of our identity somehow. So there's definitely something about identity, because it's almost like a vibration that kind of vibrates only when certain things resonate outside. And it can be masked or unmasked, suppressed or expressed, because sometimes it's not safe in a way.
Yeah. And that's the joyous resistance part, right? So it's the well, yeah, choosing to live your life and express yourself, who you are and who you want to be, in spite of the fact that the dominant cultural, societal, normative world doesn't operate like that, or doesn't accept that, or doesn't understand that.
Exactly. And it's a statement of power that this joy cannot be taken away from me. You cannot press me as much as you want, but I can still be joyful.
Yeah. And yeah, it's all those, and it's I think it's so powerful for our individual and collective systems. So all the little ones in us that maybe were shamed or weren't allowed to express, or were told that that's not okay when we were younger. Our choice to inhabit, express, find, create queer joy, neurodivergent joy, neuroqueer joy. I wonder if that's part of this feeling that we're both feeling talking about this. Is it, our whole systems are going, oh, wow, it's okay.
Yeah. And I'm super curious to know if anybody watches this podcast video, just to share what's happening with them as they hear.
I would love that too.
Talk. This isn't the usual, like social media pitch. It's just really, I would like to know, because the more I speak about this, the more I discover things, and yeah, I can feel my energy rising, but not in a out of control way. It just feels very nice, and the many shades of 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 the experiences of joy. And it's coming towards the end. I just wanna kind of name. I did some thinking about running a queer joy LGBT group, and then many other projects came my way. But I might do it. If there is a group I'll do, probably that's the one. And I believe IFS can help with the idea of constraints, because the joy is there. I don't think we need to cultivate it or like empower it. It is either blocked by parts, or even so we might feel it and it might be blocked, or the feeling itself of joy might somehow be exiled, or our parts have taken us away from any situations or contexts or other sources that can make us joyful. And I think that can be an empowering group in a way, to have a queer community, to add the community element, to it, to
Beautiful offering.
unburden and understand what is it that we are doing that separates us from queer joy.
Yeah. How can we help our parts to be less constrained, less blocked, less afraid of joy, and maybe welcome back in that joy that has been exiled because it wasn't safe.
Yeah.
It wasn't safe to feel.
And really, the question I want to offer to anybody who's listening is, what makes you joyful? And to first kind of feel how that lands, how does it make you feel to think about joy? Probably makes you feel a bit of that joy. And then it might start from something very big, but actually, if you stay with the idea of what makes me joyful, probably it's the smallest things that anybody that you can encounter easily in life that really makes you joyful. I don't think it's ever, I need to win 1,000, £1,000,000. That one too, but
there may be some joy with that.
Yeah. Yes.
Perhaps. But yeah, so yeah, what we're talking about, yeah, well, it's a shout out, call out, queer joy. Like, tell us about your queer joy. Drop it in the comments on the video on YouTube or on Spotify or on Apple and wherever you get your podcast, or email us.
Yes.
And whilst I'm saying wherever you get your podcast and sounding like an actual podcaster, let's also say, if you like this podcast, please do like it wherever you get it from. Please do subscribe. Please share it with anyone you feel it might resonate with. We would be delighted if you could do that. Help us keep spreading the queer joy.
Yeah, it would give us queer joy.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, it does. Actually, that's true as well, Alessio, isn't it? I mean, when we get comments from people, we do this podcast because we like talking about all of these topics around queering IFS, and it does. When we get messages from people saying, this has really helped them to have this queering lens on all things IFS, or that people have shared this or it's resonated with them, it does give us joy.
I mean, honestly, I am so joyful when I meet you and record these podcasts, Jude. And, it's not I think this is our way of doing some queer joy.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Yeah.
And share the joy with the community. And I think it's nice to receive joy back and enthusiasm and encouragement, because it is also thanks to those people who say, oh, thank you, it just really means a lot to me that there is something out there that gives me the desire to keep on going, to chase you, Jude, you chase me, when do we meet? And
just to
we
try
do
and pin down times. Yeah. Okay, so part of me does not want to wrap this up because it's just such a lovely topic. However, we must for everyone's sake.
But I have in mind someone that we can invite to, have a guest about queer joy, because why?
Fabulous.
Why?
Why stop at one episode?
Why stop one episode? But we're not going to tell the audience who it is. So we will
I love it.
we'll keep it secret. Watch the space.
Okay. So thank you so much, Alessio. Thank you, everyone listening. Thank you for all your queer joy, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Jude. Do we kind of say to people how to contact us? Or
yes, we do.
We're not going to do it because it's not going to give us too much joy to do that. We're just going to skip this one.
And listeners won't know this, but when we started today's recording, I also completely forgot the beginning because I just wanted to get into the topic. So,
Yeah,
Alessio, how can people contact you?
Well, I'm going to be brief just to keep the joy up. So my website, therapywithalessio.com. You'll find my blog there, links to this podcast, and a form to contact me. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And for me, you can find me at my website, which is anchoredinself.co.uk, or you can find me on Instagram, anchored_in_self. And yeah, would love great to hear from anyone who's got anything to say, anyone who's been I wonder what the word is for that. Anyone whose joy has been activated through listening to this or watching this. Yeah.
Beautiful. So, well, shall we wrap this up?
Let's wrap it up.
Okay.
We'll be back soon with more queer joy.
Absolutely. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.